Do you remember when a trip to the local supermarket felt like a community event instead of a rushed chore? Today, we are taking a nostalgic walk down the aisles of history to revisit our favorite lost food markets. Get ready to explore 10 grocery store chains from the past that have vanished. For generations of Americans, the Great Atlantic and Pacific Tea Company, better known as A&P, was the undisputed king of the grocery world. At its peak in the mid-20th century, A&P was the largest retailer in the entire world. If you grew up in the 1950s or 60s, your family probably pushed a squeaky metal cart down an A&P aisle. Shoppers loved exclusive brands like 8 O'Clock Coffee and Jane Parker baked goods. The smell of freshly ground coffee beans at the checkout is a core memory for countless baby boomers. A&P pioneered the modern supermarket format, offering everything under one roof. However, the company struggled to keep up with newer suburban superstores. After surviving for over 150 years, the legendary chain closed its doors in 2015. If you lived in California, you probably remember the catchy name and unique concept behind Alpha Beta. Founded in the 1920s, this beloved chain revolutionized shopping by organizing their grocery inventory in alphabetical order. Shoppers could find apples in the A aisle, beans in the B aisle, and canned corn in the C aisle. While this strict alphabetical system was eventually phased out, the catchy name stuck around for decades. Alpha Beta became a staple of suburban West Coast life during the 1970s and 80s. Families loved collecting trading stamps and taking advantage of weekly meat specials. The stores featured a distinct mid-century modern style with large glass windows. Sadly, after a series of corporate mergers in the late 1980s and 90s, the Alpha Beta name was swallowed up by competitors, erasing a quirky piece of history. For those who grew up in New York, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania, Pathmark was the ultimate destination for massive weekly grocery hauls. Bursting onto the scene in the late 1960s, Pathmark was one of the first chains to introduce the supercenter concept to the East Coast. They kept their doors open 24 hours a day, which was a mind-blowing convenience for busy families. You could walk in at 2 in the morning to buy fresh produce, milk, and a brand new television set. Pathmark was famous for its heavily promoted private label products, offering budget-friendly alternatives that filled working-class pantries. For decades, the giant Pathmark sign was a beacon of affordability. Unfortunately, shifting economic tides and intense competition forced the company into bankruptcy, and the final Pathmark stores shuttered in 2015. If you spent your childhood in the upper Midwest during the golden years of the 20th century, the glaring eyes of the Red Owl logo were a comforting sight. Starting in Minnesota back in the 1920s, Red Owl grew into a dominant grocery force across states like Wisconsin and Michigan. The chain was incredibly innovative, frequently sponsoring local radio broadcasts to build a deep relationship with the communities it served. Walking into a Red Owl store felt like stepping into a friendly neighborhood gathering spot. Kids eagerly looked forward to getting a free cookie at the bakery counter while their parents stocked up on weekly essentials. The brand was so iconic that its striking logo became an unforgettable piece of Midwestern pop culture. Eventually, the fiercely competitive grocery market proved too much, and Red Owl was bought out. Food Fair was a true pioneer of the American supermarket industry, transforming the way families bought their meals from the 1930s through the 1970s. Starting as a single meat market in Pennsylvania, the founders realized customers loved buying discounted groceries in a massive warehouse environment. By the 1950s, Food Fair had exploded into one of the largest grocery chains in the entire country. They were among the first to offer massive parking lots, air-conditioned aisles, and a huge variety of non-food items. Shoppers were absolutely loyal to the brand, faithfully collecting S and H green stamps to redeem for household goods. Later on, the company rebranded many of its stores under the name Pantry Pride. Despite their early success, terrible financial mismanagement in the late 1970s forced the company into a catastrophic bankruptcy. Tracing its roots all the way back to the late 1800s, Grand Union was a legendary name that survived multiple generations of American history. For most of the 20th century, this sprawling chain was a dominant force across the East Coast, known for its high-quality produce and clean store environments. During the boom years of the 1950s and 60s, Grand Union was at the cutting edge of retail technology, introducing automated checkout belts and modern refrigeration units. They even experimented with an early superstore concept called Grand Way, which sold clothing alongside fresh vegetables. Families trusted the Grand Union name for their holiday dinners, relying on excellent butcher shops for Thanksgiving turkeys. The familiar red dot logo was a staple in countless shopping plazas. Sadly, heavy financial burdens crippled the historic company, and it was sold off. For generations of Chicagoans, Dominick's was much more than just a place to buy food. It was a beloved local institution. Founded in the 1920s by an Italian immigrant, the chain started as a humble neighborhood deli before expanding into a massive network of premium supermarkets. Dominick's was famous for its incredible customer service, offering an upscale shopping experience with beautiful fresh flower displays and top-tier deli counters. In the 1980s and 90s, they introduced the popular Fresh Store concept, featuring European-style open markets and in-store cafes. It was the kind of store where you actually enjoyed spending your Saturday afternoon bumping into neighbors. The brand was deeply woven into the fabric of Chicago life, but things took a turn when Safeway purchased the chain. The new corporate owners changed the store layouts, and all remaining locations shut down. Down in the southern United States, Jitney Jungle was a grocery store chain with a funny name and a loyal following that lasted for over 80 years. Founded in Mississippi in 1919, the chain was created to compete directly with Piggly Wiggly. The bizarre name was a clever marketing trick, combining the slang word for a nickel with the idea of a wild jungle of incredible bargains. Throughout the 20th century, Jitney Jungle stores were a familiar sight across the South, serving as the go-to destination for staples like sweet tea and fresh produce. They were famous for their incredibly friendly cashiers and their deep involvement in local community events. During the 1990s, the chain tried to expand too quickly, leading to massive corporate debt. This financial strain proved fatal, and the historic chain was purchased by Winn-Dixie. If you grew up in Brooklyn, Queens, or Long Island in the 20th century, Waldbaum's was practically a second home. Starting as a tiny butter and egg store in 1904, Waldbaum's slowly grew into an absolute powerhouse of the New York grocery scene. By the 1970s, their massive supermarkets were anchoring suburban shopping centers, providing growing families with everything they needed. Waldbaum's was famous for catering to diverse local neighborhoods, offering massive kosher sections, fresh bagels, and appetizing counters that rivaled local delis. Shoppers loved the bright aisles, the weekly circulars packed with coupons, and the feeling that the store understood New Yorkers. The founding family eventually sold the booming chain to A&P. As A&P began its own decline, Waldbaum's was dragged down with it, and the final stores were auctioned off. Rounding out our nostalgic list is National Supermarkets, a chain that served as the backbone of grocery shopping for countless families in the Midwest. This chain was a powerhouse throughout the 1970s and 80s. National Supermarkets were known for their aggressive pricing and massive weekly sales, making them a favorite for budget-conscious parents. They were also pioneers in the generic food craze of the early 1980s, introducing a highly popular line of plain black and white packaged goods. Walking down a national aisle meant seeing towering displays of canned goods and friendly butchers wearing crisp white aprons. They fiercely competed with other regional chains, constantly trying to win over customers with double coupon days. Unfortunately, the shifting retail landscape made it difficult to survive, and the chain was bought out by Schnucks. Which of these vanished grocery stores do you miss shopping at the most? Let us know your answer in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe to American Rewind.